Stephen King, a legend in the literary world, the man behind dozens of the most terrifying and mesmerizing stories, had just released his latest novel, Shadows Behind You. Critics were raving, readers were losing their minds over the gripping plot, and the publishing house was already drafting a contract for a movie adaptation. Everything seemed perfect until one man came forward. His name was Reynolds, a 26-year-old aspiring writer no one had ever heard of. For 5 years, he had struggled to break into the literary world, only to be met with rejection after rejection. But one of his manuscripts, the one he had poured his entire life into, had somehow ended up in King's hands. Alex couldn't believe his eyes when he first opened Shadows Behind You. Every sentence, every character, every unexpected twist, it was all his, but under someone else's name. At first, he thought it had to be some bizarre coincidence. Maybe just a similarity? But no. He dug out his old manuscript and compared the pages. It was identical. Not a single change. Down to the last comma. It was his story. That's when he took his first step. He posted on Twitter, "Today, I picked up Stephen King's new book and realized I was reading my own story. Word for word. How did it end up in his hands? And why is it being published under his name?" The tweet spread like wildfire. At first, people laughed, assuming it was a joke. But then Alex posted scanned pages of his manuscript, dated 3 years before King's book had been released. And that's when the shockwave hit. The world started to crack at the seams. How could the king of horror steal someone else's work? At first, King remained silent. Then his lawyers released an official statement, claiming it was all a coincidence and that any accusations were baseless. But readers weren't fools. The book style was nothing like King's usual writing. The official statements felt unconvincing, almost as if the horror legend wasn't even trying to fight the criticism, fueling even more speculation and rumors. Journalists began digging. What they uncovered was shocking. Reynolds' manuscript had vanished after he submitted it to a major publishing house, the same one King worked with. The backlash was uncontrollable. Some readers boycotted King's books, outraged by the betrayal. But ironically, the controversy had the opposite effect on others. They were desperate to see if King had really done it. The book sold out instantly, with massive lines forming outside bookstores. Publishers demanded an explanation. But the real horror was yet to come. Alex Reynolds remembered the day he first met Stephen King. It was during one of King's open lectures in New York, where the horror master shared his secrets to great storytelling. Alex sat in the second row, hanging on to every word. After the lecture, the young writer gathered his courage and approached his idol. He was clutching his manuscript, the one he had spent 5 years working on. "Mr. King, I'm a huge fan. I write, too," Alex said nervously, handing him a thick stack of printed pages. "This is my novel. I know you probably get this all the time, but you're my hero. Please, if you ever have a spare moment." King smiled. He took the manuscript and even patted the kid on the shoulder. "I'll take a look," he said. "Keep writing, kid. That's the most important thing." Alex had cherished that moment as the happiest of his life. But now, standing there with Shadows Behind You in his hands, he felt something inside him shatter. It wasn't about the book. It wasn't about the money. It was the betrayal. He had idolized King. Now, that hero had turned out to be a thief. Rage boiled inside him, but Alex knew he had to play it smart. He reached out to a lawyer, only to be met with a harsh reality. "This could be a long and brutal fight," the attorney warned. "King has an army of lawyers. They'll crush anyone who comes after him. But I have proof." Alex protested. "It won't be enough. Publishers hate scandals. If they can make this go away, they will." Alex knew the game was rigged. But he couldn't just walk away. He had no choice. He had grown up without a father. His mother had been sick for the last 2 years. To survive, he had juggled college and multiple jobs. And through it all, he had held on to his dream. He had sacrificed nights out with friends just to carve out time for writing. And now, that dream had been stolen. Exhausted and desperate, he did the only thing left to do. He made the world listen. With journalists swarming around him, Alex gave an explosive interview. He told them everything: his sick mother, his endless shifts at work, the dream that had been crushed. He showed them everything: his rough drafts, his email exchanges with publishers, and timestamped proof that his manuscript had been submitted long before Shadows Behind You was even announced. And finally, the world listened. Readers were shocked. People demanded answers from King. And at last, when the pressure became unbearable, Stephen King appeared on live television. His face looked exhausted. His voice was unsteady. He didn't deny the accusations, but what he said next was something no one expected. Fame spread quickly for the young writer, but only in the tight-knit circles of the publishing world, Stephen King admitted. His name never made it to the front pages of newspapers, TV broadcasts, or viral blog posts. Yet, within the industry, editors and publishers whispered his name in awe. They called Alex Reynolds the next Stephen King. The room fell silent. And then, one of the biggest publishing agencies reached out to him. "Alex, we believe in your talent," they told him over the phone. "We want to sign you for a multi-book deal. This is your chance to become a star." But when I read the contract they offered Alex, my blood ran cold. It was a trap. They dangled a miserable advance, one that Alex, given his situation, his mother's health, his financial struggles, might have been tempted to accept. But in exchange, he would lose the rights to every book he ever wrote, including those he hadn't even written yet. The publishers would have full control over his work, the power to rewrite his stories, sell movie rights, and milk his talent dry. Alex? He would just be the ghostwriter of his own career, paid scraps, doing the hardest work while others got rich. He was cornered, and I couldn't just stand by and watch. After a long silence, I made my move. Stephen King released a special statement. "I made a terrible mistake, but I intend to make things right. This was my plan from the start. In the latest print of Shadows Behind You, I've added the real author's name, Alex Reynolds. Furthermore, I am officially transferring all rights to this novel to him. Every dollar I earned from it now belongs to him as well. Alex, you are the future, and I'm happy to step aside and give you the road ahead." It was an explosion. Alex was finally recognized as the true author of Shadows Behind You. The massive royalties King had earned from the book were now his. And no one, could ever steal his work again. The publishers could no longer control him. Alex Reynolds was now a free writer, with a name, money, and the world at his feet. Life had changed. He had everything he ever dreamed of. And the most ironic part? It all happened thanks to the man who betrayed him first. Subscribe to my channel, and drop your questions in the comments below.